Hello, social media followers, LinkedIn, Facebook, and everyone tuning into our show. Welcome to Beyond the Offer podcast. I am your host, Rosanna Snediker, joined by my co-host and friend, Bill Gates. Thank you for tuning in as we tackle the latest trends and challenges in talent acquisition and human resources. We are pleased to be joined by Michelle Lee today, who is the Senior Director of HR at Signode, which is a leading and global manufacturer and distributor of packaging systems. Michelle has been a leader in the HR space with several companies, including Siemens and Profile Products as well. Michelle is a talented HR leader who I've had the pleasure of knowing since 2019. We are thrilled to have you join our podcast today, Michelle. Welcome to Beyond the Offer.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And I guess Bill's known you since 2019 as well. We both worked with you in the past whenever you took the job at Profile Products. So excited to have this be full circle today.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, so to kick it off, Michelle, we like to ask everyone kind of the first question to start off. Would love just to learn more about your background and how you got into the human resources space.
Yeah, and most of the people I know in HR don't usually go to college to study HR, and I can proudly say I'm one of those folks as well. I actually started my career in social services, and I found it very rewarding, and I enjoyed helping others. But what I found after a couple of years didn't feel that challenge that I was looking for. So I started to read some books on human resources, talk to some folks in the field, and really had a passion for it. So I started to study for it, enjoyed it. And then one employer took a chance on me, gave me all the training I needed. And then I was all set off to go. Took a first job, a small manufacturing company, about 100 people, and then progressed into some larger organizations after that. So it's been over 20 years and I have no regrets. I'm thoroughly enjoying what I'm doing.
That's great. What is it usually? Psychology, I think, Ro, probably would you say is the most popular or the most likely major for people that get into HR? That's usually.
Yeah, I feel like we hear a lot about psychology or social services, a lot of kind of people degrees that then transition into HR. So
Yeah, I know they do have an HR education now, but I wonder how many people are actually enrolled in it, right?
yeah, and that's, I feel like, somewhat fairly new. Like that, even when I was in college, not many schools offered specialized programs in it. So
Yeah, now they have a slew of, I mean, even getting masters in organizational development, design. I mean, there's so many different industrial, but well, kind of transitioning to that too. I mean, in regard to your HR experience, some of it's been with smaller organizations like Profile Product to large organizations like Siemens and your current company, Signode. What's the differences and similarities when you're working within smaller versus larger organizations?
Yeah, great question. And I'm very fortunate to have both the small company, large company experience. With the smaller companies, I found really you're extremely hands-on, where you pretty much get your hands into every area of HR. So learned a ton just by being exposed to all areas and sometimes even outside of HR as well, because the companies are smaller. You definitely have a huge impact being in the smaller organizations. The larger organizations, what I really enjoy is more of the strategic HR work, because you are resourced more effectively. You have a global team, you have a larger HR ecosystem so that you're able to really develop the HR strategy and execute. And then, as far as some of the similarities, all companies, no matter what size, the same issues with retention, recruitment, employee engagement, they're across the board. They may be different, but very similar as far as the same types of employee issues that you deal with.
Do you have a preference on one or the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's interesting because at first I really enjoyed the smaller companies, but now that I've worked in the larger companies, I really like being more strategic and just you make a bigger impact with the bigger companies as well. So I'm really enjoying my position's a great fit for me personally.
Good.
yeah, it's nice too that you've been able to do both, because we talk to a lot of candidates that want to transition out of the smaller into bigger or vice versa. And sometimes it can be difficult if that's what your career path has leaned into. So
Yeah, and mine's a little backwards because I think a lot of people start out with the bigger companies and then they move to the smaller ones. So
yeah,
mine's
get me
probably
out of the
less
red tape
traditional.
and all that. Yeah. Well, you mentioned too, when you were talking just about like the global teams that you have with larger companies. I know in your current role, you're getting to work with global teams. I believe you've recently even got to travel globally with your organization. What have you learned throughout that experience? And what is it like working in HR when you're getting to work with folks all across the world?
I'll have to tell you, it's fascinating. It's a great experience. We had a global meeting in Switzerland, and some of the folks have never met each other in person. And we really learned about each other's cultures, what their differences are in work styles. So it's not just related to the HR work, but it's just how we operate in general. And you learn so much by having a robust, diverse group of professionals that you work with, and you accomplish more because of the diversity and because of the knowledge that they have in their countries, and then making things more standardized and global. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome. Did you get to do anything fun while you were in Switzerland
We
outside of like,
did. Yeah, we
okay,
went on a tour. We went to Lucerne, which was
Oh,
a
wow.
beautiful city, and went up the mountains as well. Yeah, I wish I had more time there. It was really great.
yeah, not a bad place to have work travel to, Switzerland.
No, I would go there again if I was asked.
Nice.
Absolutely. Well, and so also a question kind of surrounding employee engagement and retentions. I mean, that's a big priority right now within obviously many organizations. What do you do in your role with your teams that have lower turnover and to just overall keep those employees engaged? And how does the strategy differ in a remote versus an on-site environment?
No, great question. What I've found is being more proactive is better. A lot of companies, they wait until somebody leaves. So, having the stay interviews is really a great way to engage, especially your high potentials, and figure out what's working, what are some areas you can improve upon. And everybody's honest, they feel it's a good time to share their views. So I found that really getting them involved helps engagement as well. I started up an engagement team, and it wasn't just people in HR, it was people throughout the business that I got involved, and they were very excited to feel part of that. So I think having employees let their contributions known, having a voice, getting involved, these are the kinds of things you could do. Now, as far as remote, we've been using Teams for quite some time since, everyone's been adapting to that. So really trying to have more interaction, so not the one-sided meeting, having celebrations. One thing we did as team building was getting to know you. So everybody filled out a questionnaire about some things about them personally and professionally that we didn't know. So getting them involved really helps with engagement.
Follow up to that question is, we did not that this is going to be about us necessarily, but we've tried several things from trivias to, I don't know, team lunches, etc. I mean, do ever you get the feedback it feels a little too forced? I feel like obviously it's not the same thing. Say being in the office and two or three coworkers say, hey, let's go grab some drinks or something like that after work. What's the feedback you get surrounding these team building virtual conversations and meetings? Is it all pretty positive for the most part?
It's been positive, but you have to be creative about it. Like one thing
Right.
we did was a cooking class.
Oh, yeah.
And some people didn't want to cook in front of their coworkers. Others thought it was great. You saw everybody's kitchen and their spouses were involved, and it was creative. It was fun. So I think you have to be intentional about it and not just do the ordinary meetings, but try to think what can you do that will engage folks, and then getting their ideas, because a lot of times they have such good ideas, but people don't know about them. So that's another way to get folks engaged and involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did. I think there was somebody that did the cooking class within Hirewell. They said that they all really liked it too, but wouldn't
Yeah.
where to start with the cooking class. But
Yeah, in my case, I wasn't the cook. My husband was a cook, but I was behind the scenes helping. So
I like it. I
we all
like it.
have our strengths, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Hopefully you got to benefit from the good food that he made. So
I sure did.
yeah.
Sure
Well, that's
did.
a great point. Like surveying people or just talking to people to see what their interest is, because some people like certain things, others don't. So trying to make something for everyone. But yeah, we've done, like Bill said, some trivia. I think one of the teams did like a cake baking contest. We're
Oh,
just
right. Yeah.
we're fully remote. So it's like trying to find creative ways and things that will engage people is always a challenge. So, well, in addition to your full-time HR job, you are a certified coach. And I know you've worked with executive coaching since you've been doing that for the past few years. How has that skill set helped you just with your day-to-day job? And how do you lean into that in your 9 to 5?
Yeah, I mean, it's helped me tremendously because it gave me a framework because I work with executives and all different levels of management all the time. So I've learned to really ask more open-ended questions. And sometimes I'm so anxious to give the answer. I've veered away from that. So let people come to conclusions and they feel better about it and they learn more. It also makes you a better mentor and supervisor because people can problem solve better. And then having those frameworks for change management, having processes for leadership. So having just more structure to it helps me become more effective with my job. It's really been an additional enhancement that I'm truly glad that I made that investment.
Absolutely. Yeah. The coaching piece is something I've seen pick up, especially with the remote environment. I've seen a lot of folks that specialized in talent management that have lost their jobs and started their own coaching, whether it's on the executive level or more training and helping with onboarding. And they found a lot of gratification, success in doing that. That's definitely exciting to hear. Well, in regard to more of like a current event related, in this past month, we've seen one of the most turbulent weeks in the stock market in 2024. And then along with this upcoming election, do you see these recent and upcoming events impacting recruiting, talent management, or HR in any way?
Yeah, I definitely see it as people really taking a step back, the business leaders and saying what positions are really going to impact the business. Maybe there's some that you could wait on. You don't have to fill them right away, but just being more strategic and taking a look at the organization. Where is it heading? What are the positions that are going to make the most impact?
Yeah.
How is AI going to impact this as well? So just a number of different ways to look at it. So it's having that time to really analyze the information and seeing what changes will be helpful. And yeah, we only have a few months left right before the
Or
new
the
year
election.
begins. It's going by quite quickly.
Well, New Year and the election will be here before we know it, definitely.
Yes.
You'd mentioned AI as well in regard to upcoming, not just events and changes, but have you seen that impact your role currently or in the past in any respect?
I've seen it positively impact my role where you can do things a lot quicker, like helping with job descriptions, helping with some administrative tasks. It just makes you a lot more efficient. So you could spend more time partnering with the business. So I know people have mixed feelings about it, but I see it as a positive and only helpful to people. And you're going to need HR people. You could try to outsource it, but at the end of the day, people want somebody to talk to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's a good point.
completely. Well, and it can only make you a better HR professional if you could streamline some of those processes. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. And
I still like to think I can write a better LinkedIn message than these AI ones that they put together, which are way off the charts and not anywhere close to what I'm trying to say to people. But hopefully they don't figure that out, or our job's going to become obsolete.
Oh, I'm sure it won't be because you're dealing with people and they need you.
That's true.
yeah, job security and that at least. To kind of stick down just like current events and in recent news, Starbucks' old CEO is going to be stepping down, and the company is hiring Chipotle CEO Brian Nickel, who's been responsible for really turning the Mexican restaurant around, and he'll be the new CEO in September. With your coaching and just working with CEOs in the past, what qualities do you think are most important to be a successful CEO?
Yeah, what I've seen with the successful ones are the ones that have top-notch communication skills that can really talk to employees of all different levels. So ones that are really out there being proactive, walking around, trying to get to know the population, seeing what the issues are. Those are very emotionally intelligent CEOs. And I find that is a great skill set and you always look for in a leader. And then somebody who really has a clear, vision on where things are going and can articulate that to everybody too. I think those are some key attributes as well. And then also somebody who's humble,
Yeah.
not afraid to admit when they're wrong or make a mistake. Ego should be put down a little bit. Sometimes people have their egos control them. So if you have a small ego and you're humble and you admit when you're wrong, that makes a great CEO as well.
Have you noticed? I'm trying to think, the public versus privately held companies, when you have a CEO and publicly traded organizations, obviously a lot of the leadership can be demanded by the board and the stock price versus privately held. Obviously, usually there's still a board and whatnot. Do you see that impacting at all a CEO's ability in a positive manner?
I still think they can lead the same way, just that they deal with their board, their boss differently, but they could still treat the employee population in the same regard. And that will go a long way, and that should increase revenue and make the company more valuable if their people are happy and satisfied.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense. I kind of posed that question based on the Boeing news that we've been hearing over the last 3 or 4 years, which quality of the actual product has decreased based on kind of the stock price. But I'm sure there's some differences. But as you mentioned, as long as you have a good vision of those qualities you'd mentioned in a CEO, you should be able to lead the same way, no matter if it's private or public. Well, another question I had, throughout your career, you've led just some overall several impressive companies that have had large hourly non-exempt employee populations. A lot of them have had plant facilities or distribution facilities. A lot of the folks on the recruiting side, especially within Hirewell, we've seen some challenges for a lot of our clients in terms of finding talent at these facilities, some of which have been in kind of rural locations. But have you seen, over your time in this space, supporting multiple different companies and HR, have you seen a change in what the talent market looks like in hiring hourly and also managerial positions within these facilities?
Yeah, what I'm finding is it's interesting that people think that the hourly and the salaried folks are so different, but they're actually looking for a lot of the same things. They're looking for a career path too. So when somebody entry level comes in, they want to know, what are the steps? What are the things I need to learn? Do I have to go back to school to move up or to transfer into a new skill set? So what I find is that having that communication was part of the sale of the position, because if they're offered the same hourly rate down the street and you can offer them a more solid career path, also offering them top-notch benefits too. They are important to people, and
Sure.
making sure that they understand what they are. And then also people do ask about retention. That's a big topic that comes up on a lot of interviews. I don't know if you guys are asked that during your interviews as well.
I'd say it's becomes more of a topic, whether, it's Hirewell or another client of ours is Glassdoor has been a little bit pounded recently and had some negative reviews. Yeah, but retention, especially when we're filling HR jobs, it's always a topic, right? I mean, sometimes they want a CHRO to come in and completely overhaul things, but there has been, usually I have seen 40 retention at kind of the plant hourly manufacturing distribution facility is right around an average for a lot of the clients that we've worked with. Some is lower, some is higher, but it depends also on how many exempt and non-exempt employee populations you're looking at, how many other plants that are coming. Sometimes there's a new plant that surfaces within a rural area, which shakes up the talent map in that particular area. And then there's also just, I think there's been a shortage of folks that want to work in the plant and distribution facilities. I know Amazon has brought that up numerous times, given the fact that they continue to add these massive distribution facilities and hire in very high bulk. But it is very challenging for talent. I knew it's interesting you say they're similar, because I do think they are similar, because you have to offer the same benefits and things like that to these individuals. But there is definitely a less willingness to work on an hourly basis that I have seen. I don't know if it's something that you've typically seen on your end, and I don't know how much of that is like a generational thing. It's very hard to kind of quantify or say, but do you have any thoughts on that at all, Michelle?
Yeah, it's definitely harder for certain positions, because we have a lot of, tech positions,
Yeah.
hourly positions, and it seems like some of the newer folks, they don't understand about all the travel and all the administrative involved, so that's, definitely a challenge. So providing them different types of opportunities and a path sometimes is a big motivator, but yeah, those positions are definitely tricky, and there's a
Well,
lot of training
sometimes you have
involved
to, if
too.
it's right, and if it's in a rural location, you got to put a reload package together, which we never love to start off with by any means because it usually
No.
ends up bad. But it's interesting. I've noticed because we have a tech branch, recruiting branch, technology recruiting branch here, and software developers for the last 20 years have been always in such demand. But with AI now, and a lot of it has deleted a lot of jobs, and I think we've started to notice more of the mechanics and the individuals that are on the industrial side that are doing things with their hands are becoming much more. There aren't as many folks that have specialized in that practice similarly to what we did back in the early kind of 2000s, where there weren't a lot of folks that had the coding abilities as well. So it's kind of like clothing in some ways, that it's kind of goes through waves here, but I think that's something that we've definitely noticed as a bit of a trend.
Yeah, so we've been really leveraging our employee referral program, really trying to get
Yeah,
folks excited about working here and showing them the difference between some of
definitely.
the other competitors.
Yeah, I was
Absolutely.
going to ask what other creative ways do you recruit at the plant level? So the referral program and getting folks to refer friends. Anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, and then we're going to some of the technical schools. We're trying to leverage some of the technical people as well, and then utilizing LinkedIn, even though folks may not look there, other people may know people. So just sharing, commenting, liking, just trying to get more awareness out there. It's more about brand recognition and
Yeah.
letting people know. And the one thing, we wanna do in the future is take a look at the trucks. Can we put on, like, a QR code to the career site so that people can,
Oh,
find us right away? So, just trying
No,
to think out of the box here.
I like that. That's creative.
definitely.
Um,
Yeah, I've heard some folks going after local high schools, universities,
mhm.
that have industrial programs, et cetera. As you mentioned, it all depends a bit on the position, but there needs to be some sort of talent recruiting strategy, if there's a gap in terms of finding people and the positions are open for a little bit too long. But once you have that down, then the branding also goes along with it as well. But there's ups and downs on these things based on what the market, the job market looks like, et cetera. So,
Absolutely.
Well, our last question, we like to jump into our unfiltered section of the podcast. So it's our unfiltered HR question that's just like a little less formal, not as HR focused, and can be sometimes maybe a little bit more uncomfortable of a question. But wanted to ask you, if you were not in HR, or if, say, sounds like you're not going anywhere, you love HR, but if you were looking to make a career change or a shift, what would you transition into? And how do you feel like your 20 years plus in the HR space, the skills that you've learned, how those would help kind of transfer over into a new career path?
Well, the one thing I noticed is there's, a gap in when you go to college. Nobody ever teaches you, how to market yourself, how to find a job. So if I had the opportunity and I wasn't in HR, I would definitely want to be a professor that would teach young people really how to market themselves, how to find jobs, what are some of the skills that you need in the workplace, because I feel that that's never been taught. People learn the hard way. So it would be nice to have that education and then potentially teaching like a leadership management type of courses as well, because I believe that will go such a long way by having different classes that maybe that population, that age group would never have before.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes hand in hand with like the coaching stuff you've done. So you kind of already
Yes.
tapped into that a little bit. I love that too about teaching kids. And I think that can even start at the high school level. Like I think about some kids that don't want to go to a 4-year school or go to college. It's like you graduate high school or college and it's all academic. And then it's like, here's the real world, figure things out. Even you see the jokes about like they should teach us how to do our taxes versus teach us, algebra. And it's like, there is some truth to that.
Yeah, like maybe a practical business class, just so that people know how to operate, right?
Right.
What does it look like transitioning from school to a real workplace?
Well,
Yeah.
it's like they do now. A lot of the NFL and NBA players that manage their money poorly. I mean, they are already putting those classes together on financial advising as much as they can so they don't get their first paycheck, blow it through on a car or house or whatever. And so they can get set up for life long term. They need to approach that definitely on the same respect and educating a lot of these kids for sure, because how many people go into high school and college and know exactly what they want to do outside of the rare norms that are doctors and lawyers, etc. But even those honestly get through about 2 or 3 years of med school or law school, and they're like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, we appreciate the time. That is all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Today, we met with Michelle Lee and discussed her career working with global teams, how to partner with the CEO on HR strategy, how to attract and retain hourly employees, and much more. We will be back again with you all next month with a new special guest. Quick reminder on how you can support our Beyond the Offer podcast. You can find all of the content on HireWell's social media platform, which you can find through hirewell.com. Take care, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Michelle.